Angel Reese may have just had the worst game of her entire basketball career, and no one in Chicago wants to admit what that actually means. This wasn't just an off night, it was a meltdown. A stat-stuffing, turnover-heavy, momentum-killing mess that left even her most loyal supporters scratching their heads. Sure, she recorded yet another double-double, but if you were actually watching the game, you know that stat line doesn't even come close to telling the truth. Because when your supposed franchise player finishes with more turnovers than made shots, more bad decisions than assists, and a -19 impact on the scoreboard, that's not leadership, that's not development, that's not star power. And it begs the question no one wants to say out loud: is Angel Reese actually making the Chicago Sky worse? In this video, we're diving deep into what really went wrong. From the disastrous turnovers, to the exposed weaknesses, to the uncomfortable truth the Sky front office is avoiding. And what we found? It's not just one bad game. It might be the beginning of a complete collapse. 9 turnovers. Let that sink in. That's not a typo. That's not a fluke. That's not something you can brush off as a bad bounce or unlucky pass. That's a full-blown implosion from someone expected to lead a professional basketball team. Angel Reese didn't just cough up the ball, she practically handed it to Minnesota on a silver platter. No-look passes that sailed straight out of bounds. Cross-court lobs picked off like a Pop Warner drill. Basic post-ups that turned into travels. And the worst part? These weren't aggressive, high-reward risks like you see from elite playmakers. These were elementary mistakes. Reese was playing like someone who wasn't just outmatched. She looked lost. By the end of the night, she had committed nearly half of her team's 23 total turnovers, which just so happened to be the most the Minnesota Lynx had forced all season. Let that tell you something. Chicago didn't just lose. They made Minnesota look historic, and a huge part of that was Angel Reese unraveling right in front of everyone. And if you thought it couldn't get worse, just wait, because the double-double, that's where the illusion really begins. On paper, Angel Reese finished with 11 points and 11 rebounds. A clean double-double that would make any box score look respectable. But that stat line? It's fool's gold. Because when you dig beneath the surface, you find the truth that the numbers are hiding. Reese wasn't helping her team, she was actively hurting them. Her plus-minus for the night? -19. That means the Sky were outscored by 19 points with her on the court. That's not just bad, that's damning. Every time Chicago started to find a little momentum, it was Reese who would kill it with another turnover, a poor decision, or a forced play that went nowhere. It's like she was playing on a completely different timeline than her teammates. While they tried to move the ball, she was trying to be the star of her own highlight reel. And here's where things get uncomfortable. Chicago actually looked better when she was on the bench. The offense moved smoother. The ball didn't stick. Players made quicker decisions. Possessions didn't end in chaos. Suddenly, the team didn't look hopeless. And that's not a coincidence. This isn't just about one game. It's about a pattern that's been building all season long. Because if your team improves the moment you sit down, you're not the solution. You're the problem. And Chicago's problem only gets worse when you look at how they've been using her. Here's the harsh reality. Angel Reese is not a point forward. She's been cast into a role that demands elite ball handling, quick decision-making, and a panoramic view of the court. And she has none of those tools right now. Reese isn't Alyssa Thomas. She's not a floor general. She's not a creator. And forcing her to play like one has been an absolute disaster. Against the Minnesota Lynx, it was painfully obvious. She brought the ball up the court, tried to initiate offense from half court, and delivered passes to absolutely no one. No-look handoffs to invisible teammates. Lob passes that went straight to defenders. Wild entry passes from the logo. What was the plan? There was no plan. It wasn't just ineffective, it was embarrassing. 9 turnovers to 3 assists. That's a ratio that would get benched in high school. In the pros, it should set off alarm bells in the front office. And yet, the Sky keep pushing this experiment. They keep trying to turn Reese into something she's not. They've handed her the keys to the offense and told her to drive, but she keeps crashing it into the nearest wall. It's one thing to pad stats in a broken system. It's another thing to realize that you might be the reason it's broken. But Reese wasn't just giving the ball away. She was also giving up something even more dangerous: her composure. And that's where things started to spiral. If the turnovers weren't enough, Angel Reese added another red flag to the pile. And this one could cost her more than just a possession. Midway through the game, after another frustrating sequence, Reese picked up her 7th technical foul of the season. That's not a small number. That's the most in the entire WNBA. And one more puts her at automatic suspension. Let that sink in. While her team was getting dismantled on national TV, Their star player wasn't locking in, she was losing it. After getting swatted at the rim, she jumped up and immediately got in a former teammate's face. The refs didn't hesitate. Technical foul. Another one. Add it to the list. This isn't just about attitude. This is about timing. When your team is spiraling and you're supposed to be the emotional leader, you can't afford to be the one unraveling. But here's the problem. This isn't new. It's becoming a pattern. Reese has built her brand on being bold, brash, unbothered. But there's a fine line between confidence and chaos. And in games like this, that line disappears fast. Emotional outbursts, unnecessary confrontations, and careless texts don't just hurt her reputation. They actively hurt her team. And it's even more frustrating when you consider who she's lashing out at. In this case, Diamond Miller, a former Maryland teammate. If you're blowing up on someone you've known for years, what message does that send to your locker room? What does that say about leadership? While other stars are steadying the ship, Angel Reese is shaking it. And Minnesota, they took full advantage. Let's be clear, the final score didn't even begin to tell the whole story. Yes, the Lynx beat the Sky 91-68, but this wasn't just a win. It was a methodical, cold-blooded execution. Minnesota didn't just outplay Chicago, they exposed them. They picked apart every weakness, every lazy pass, every bad rotation, and turned it into fuel for a full-on basketball clinic. From the opening tip, Minnesota looked locked in. Every possession had purpose. Every cut had timing. Every rotation on defense forced Chicago into chaos. It wasn't flashy, it was surgical. And the stars? They didn't just shine, they cooked. Napheesa Collier dropped 19 points on 50% shooting. Controlled, precise, unbothered. Kayla McBride added another 19, drilling threes and slashing into open lanes like she was playing against practice dummies. And while Chicago scrambled to stop them, Minnesota just kept moving the ball. Unselfish, balanced, deadly. Plus-minus ratings? All 5 Lynx starters finished plus 20 or better. That's team dominance at every level. Meanwhile, Chicago? They shot 39.3% from the field, turned the ball over 23 times, and spent most of the game looking like they were just trying to survive. Every Sky possession felt like a struggle. Every pass looked forced. Every shot was contested, rushed, or just plain bad. It wasn't basketball, it was desperation. And it was all happening in real time while Angel Reese, their star, spiraled in the middle of it. But here's where it gets scary. This wasn't Minnesota's best game. This was just another night for them. Which begs the question, if this is what happens when a top-tier team shows up with a business-like attitude, how far behind is Chicago really? Because the gap is wider than the scoreboard. And it only got worse when you looked at the Sky's team chemistry. This wasn't just about Angel Reese. It was about a team with no identity, no rhythm, and no idea how to play together. From start to finish, Chicago's offense looked like 5 strangers who had never shared a court before. Possessions broke down into isolation plays, contested jumpers, and frantic drives that led nowhere. Off-ball movement? Almost non-existent. Spacing? A disaster. Every play looked improvised, and not in a good way. You know what happens when everyone's trying to be the hero? Nobody wins. And here's the uncomfortable part. Things actually looked better when Angel Reese sat on the bench. Without her dominating every possession, the ball moved quicker. Players looked for each other. Decisions were sharper. There was, dare we say, structure. But once Reese came back in, everything slowed down. Suddenly the ball stuck. Teammates stood around waiting. The offense devolved into forced entry passes, awkward post-ups, and another turnover. It's like they were playing 2 different games, team basketball when she sat, and solo missions when she played. That's not just a player problem, that's a systemic collapse. And while the Lynx were showcasing perfect ball movement, Chicago was stuck watching their franchise player run headfirst into double teams and toss the ball into the stands, over and over again. This team isn't just underperforming, they're unraveling. And the deeper you look, the clearer it becomes. Angel Reese isn't masking the Sky's problems, she's the epicenter. And that leads us to the question Chicago can't avoid any longer. It's the question no one in the Sky organization wants to ask, but the evidence is piling up, and the numbers aren't lying. Is Angel Reese actually making this team worse? The honest answer? At this point, it's hard to argue otherwise. When Reese is on the floor, Chicago's offense stalls, turnovers spike, ball movement disappears, her presence demands attention, not because she's controlling the game, but because the entire system starts revolving around her and falling apart in the process. Meanwhile, when she's off the floor, things start to click. Teammates move with confidence. The ball finds the open player. There's a rhythm, a pulse, something resembling actual strategy. It's not elite basketball, but it's functional. And here's the brutal truth. You can't build around someone who doesn't make others better. Angel Reese has the hustle. She has the rebounding numbers. She has the marketing appeal. But what she doesn't have is the ability to elevate her teammates. Compare that to players like Caitlin Clark, whose passing vision alone creates scoring chances for everyone on the floor. Clark's assists don't just pad a stat sheet, they fuel an entire offense. Her turnovers, when they happen, come from trying to create something. Reese's? They come from trying to do too much without the skills to back it up. Reese's style isn't built on trust or vision. It's built on forcing plays, dominating the ball, and trying to carry a team that's begging for cohesion, not chaos. And now, the league is starting to notice. Teams are adjusting their defense to bait her into making decisions. And it's working. The scouting report is out, and so far, Chicago hasn't made a single meaningful adjustment. If this is the foundation the Sky are building around, the cracks are already showing. And now the question isn't just, what's wrong with Angel Reese? It's, what does Chicago do next? So where does Chicago go from here? Because continuing down this path, hoping Angel Reese figures it out while the team burns, isn't just risky, it's reckless. Do they redefine her role? Take the ball out of her hands? Let her focus on rebounding and defense while someone else initiates the offense? That might buy them time. Or do they make the hard call, the one nobody wants to say out loud, and start shopping her on the trade market? It sounds dramatic, until you realize the Sky are sitting at 7 wins and 16 losses, with playoff hopes fading fast and chemistry unraveling by the game. At some point, individual stats stop mattering. What matters is whether your so-called star helps you win. And right now, Angel Reese's double-doubles feel more like distractions than solutions. Her career-high 9 turnovers, her -19 impact, her league-leading technical fouls, her inability to lead this team when it needed her most. These aren't isolated incidents, they're patterns. And when the Sky's offense looks smoother without her, when the energy picks up while she's on the bench, that's not a fluke, that's a warning. The Chicago Sky are at a crossroads. Do they double down on a flawed experiment, or finally admit that building around Angel Reese might be their biggest mistake? Whatever they decide, one thing is certain. This game didn't just expose the Sky's flaws, it revealed their future. And unless something changes fast, that future looks bleak. This wasn't just a bad night for Angel Reese. It was a reality check. A 91-68 beatdown that didn't just reveal cracks in the foundation. It showed the whole house might be sinking. Now it's up to Chicago. Do they keep chasing box scores and ignoring the scoreboard? Or do they finally face the truth? Let us know in the comments. Should the Sky trade Angel Reese? Or can she still become the player they hoped she'd be? Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the real stories behind the stats. And if you think this game was bad, just wait until you see what's coming next. We'll see you in the next video.